Everyone listening on Spotify and watching on YouTube, this is another episode of NRG Insights, where we speak to people in the mortgage industry who are being very successful, or they're doing something special, and we talk to them about their ups and downs and how they got there. This is actually a re-record for me and Sam, so thank you very much, Sam, because I didn't press the record button the first time we met a few weeks ago, or I did, the system cocked up, but so I appreciate your time for the second time. And it's Sam Fox from UK Mortgage Centre, so thanks for joining me, Sam.
No worries, mate. Glad to come back a second time. Spend a bit of with you, which is always nice.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see if we can remember what we talked about, because it was a while ago now. So talk to me, let's talk about the journey to how you got to the UK Mortgage Centre.
Feels like a lifetime, to be honest with you. So it started for me, it wasn't in mortgages. I started off in music, of all things I could have chose. I got a degree in music, left uni when I was 21. I was trying to be a music producer, trying to be like the coolest kid on the block. I was in bands that were touring. We were doing trips to LA, and thought at 21, got the world figured out. But quite quickly realized there's actually no money in it. And I was just working in a bar to travel to gigs in London. And I had this vicious cycle. And it was when I was working in a really well-known studio in Liverpool, and I spoke to the producer because I was working for free. That's how cool I thought I was. I said, listen, when's this going to become a paid gig? And he just said, listen, if you don't do it for free, I'm going to ring the uni you come from and say, can you send me another kid to come and shadow me? He said, the only reason where you're ever going to make money is if your dad is famous or your family's got deep pockets to keep you from. And I was like, well, that's a little insight that I know. They didn't tell me that on my interview to get into uni. So shortly after that, I was just kind of like, I need to change what I'm doing here. So met my Charlotte, who's now my wife, and it's when we had our first child. We'd just come back from LA in the band. And I was like, this just isn't working. Like, I know people in the music say, oh, I was doing it for 20 years. And then I was like, listen, I can't be asked for that. So my dad and my grandfather retired last year, were both in financial services, both mortgage advisors, working self-employed under like a DA firm and a network. And was like, listen, just get the books. So I got the books, passed them in 2 months, and was like, oh, well, here I am. How do I make money? Joined a firm in Wrexham, Nick. Hi, Nick, if you stumble across this podcast. And Nick gave me an opportunity really where he said, look, you passed your exams, great. I'll sit on your first meeting. Had my first ever meeting in a pub, 3-piece suit, shirt and tie, sparkling shoes, the one. Like fresh out of school. Yeah, and had my first meeting, and the rest is just history, as they say. It was just that moment felt like yesterday, but I think that was about 8 years ago now, 7-8 years ago.
So you were Warrington Mortgage Centre, weren't you, for a long time?
Yeah, so when we went directly authorised in 2019, just before that, the DA firm we were working for let us set up a trading style, very kindly of him, and then we went to DA, but we were hyper localised. It was me and my old man, and one admin at the time. We opened up a shop front called Warrington Mortgage Centre, serving our time local community. We've just rebranded that shop actually. We put it on socials the other day, so it's rebranded as UK Mortgage Centre. It looks amazing. Yeah, and that's where we started out. Really, we went in a time where everyone started to go tech savvy and go digital. We were like, let's just go traditional, open a shop front and see what happens and have some fun along the way. And it turned out to be the best thing ever.
Oh, good. And tell people, I do remember this from the last time we spoke, this will make people sick if they're trying to go DA at the moment. Tell me about your experience of going DA, wasn't it? I'm right in saying it was relatively simple, wasn't it?
Honestly, all the horror stories I'm hearing at the moment, I was like, really? That didn't really happen for us. So genuinely, I think it was Simply Biz we spoke about going DA because they said, I will do all the paperwork. I had a day with somebody filling out paperwork and asking questions. And he said, yeah, sound, we'll be in touch. And then I literally got a letter through the post saying, I think it was a letter, an email saying, here's your authorization. And that was about 14 weeks start to finish. And I was like, oh.
There's so many hoops to jump through. And it takes about 12 months.
Yeah, they were saying you're going to have all these questions, interviews, and all this sort of stuff, and it just flew through. And I was like, oh, well, that was.
We should put it on the podcast just in case they cocked up. They might be coming back for your DA.
Yeah, please don't put that on. I don't want any authorization.
No on socials. So, of course, tell me about the business now. Then, what in regards to kind of the growth of the business and how it looks as UK Mortgage Centre as opposed to Warrington. What's happened to the business?
Yeah, so we'd grown so much in our local town, and we were servicing people further out in a radius of if you'd have asked me in 2019, like 95% of our business was in a 3.5 mile radius when we looked at the data. Now
Wow.
it's anywhere from like Scotland. I've had a Northern Ireland customer this week, all the way to down south. So as we were growing bigger, the name Warrington didn't quite fit the plans. We were
Yeah.
speaking to people in Surrey, and they were like, "Warrington, like where's Warrington?" So we were kind of driven by reactions, and we didn't have that magic sauce on Warrington Mortgage Centre dealing with national customers. So we tried to set up a separate brand, UK Mortgage Centre. We tried that for a few weeks, and we're like, the current brand of Warrington doesn't fit with a different colour. So we instructed an agency, was like, listen, let's just pull it all apart. Everything we knew from marketing and stuff, let's just rip it apart with a new tone of voice. And then here we are, UK Mortgage Centre launched last month.
Of interest, because this will come up with people about local niche business, and they get all that from friends and family referrals, etc. What was your kind of thought process when you were changing to UK Mortgage Centre? Did you think it would adversely affect the local business? Has it? And talk to me about that kind of transition.
For me personally, like I'm quite an emotional person, so I wear my heart on a sleeve, and all the staff will say like when the days are great, I'm like bouncing around the office, and when everyone's a bit stressful, I can really sense it. So when I spoke to my wife, my dad, my mum, and I was like, I think we need to rebrand, their immediate reaction was how I was feeling for a week or two, like, no. Like, what are you thinking? You can't do that. Everyone in Warrington knows us. So we had this proper like tug of war mentally of like, what do we do? My heart was like, you're getting rid of Warrington. But then my head was like, this is amazing. Think of the growth. Think of the opportunities that it provides now, becoming a national branded firm. And then I was talking to some people that we've done work with in the past, and I was floating the idea around of like, how do you perceive it? And some of the people we've done some marketing with before. And I was like, I'm really struggling with this battle of how I'm going to lose the identity of Warrington.
Yeah.
And someone sat me down and said, listen, McDonald's is McDonald's no matter where you go in the country or even the world for that fact.
Yeah.
He said, people aren't going to give a shit if you're called UK Mortgage Centre or Sam Fox Mortgage Advisor, as long as your service is fundamentally, your service and proposition remain exactly as they have been for the last 5-6 years. And I was like,
it's funny, isn't it, how we get caught up on how other people think when we haven't got a clue. Like, people honestly don't give a shit. Well, I don't think people even know the name of our company. They know our reputation and know we're really good at what we do, but actually, like, you know, they know everyone that works here pretty much. But it's so funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you in your head, people are hung up on, people are going to think I'm going above my station because we've gone from Warrington to UK. Most of your business there, but no one cares. They care about what you do for them, don't they?
half your battles in business are in your head anyway. You know, it's your mind is your own limitation. And if I hadn't have spoken to those people, I'd probably still be sat here thinking, oh, what do I do with Warrington in UK? And then when we were going through the process with the marketing team, they were like, we're not building you 2 websites, so we're going to help make that decision, and we're building you one because it's going to make your life hell, and we know what you're like. And I was like, oh, okay. Forced into doing it, but yeah, it's honestly the best thing we ever did.
Do you know what? Actually, as soon as the podcast, I had a marketing meeting this morning, and they said, you've got 4 names for your podcast. So I said, that's because I interview broker owners on the Insights, and I don't want to seem like a dick and then just go and interview anyone random. So it's Master of the Craft, and there's a Len. And they were like, no one even cares. Just put one name on it and just interview the people that you think are great. And that was it. And I was like, yeah, actually, I've noticed. And it was only at the beginning that I thought people would care. But no, people listen in their car, they don't give a shit. They don't care what it's called. They don't care. They care who's on it and what value they're bringing. But it's funny in your head. You're like, oh, it just won't work. You're like, I've always said it's for owners, and then these other people aren't owners. But yeah, no one cares. It's all in your head.
Yeah, it is.
Out of interest, so, I mean, your brand's cool. I know you said you use marketing companies and that kind of thing, but do you think from your kind of artist, musical background, do you think it's relative? Because we've talked before about how you think outside the box, and you're always thinking of kind of new and innovative ways. It's not just your box standard dinosaur type mortgage broking marketing. Do you think that's related from your artistry background or your music background? Do you think that's connected to the way you've kind of built your business now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really give it time to reflect on it because I've always said, you know, if I'm thinking it, everybody else must be thinking it. And it's the person who does it first will make it look like their idea. But the more people I've spoke to, that's apparently not a thing.
No.
I think from the music side of you, you're always taught that you got to find new ways to re-engage and reinvent the wheel because, you know, every chord's been played before, every drum beat's pretty much been played before, but it's how you put those together to create a new stylistic view on an indie, you know, an indie song. So I do think that it's given me a benefit to be like, okay, well, this is old. How do we, you know, mortgages have been around for years, but how do we reinvent the wheel to make it such a boring subject, engaging and fun, as if it's something new? So I do think that it has helped over the last couple of months. I mean, Emma, who's our brand manager, I'll just Teams her and go, I've got something. And she's like, oh God, what now? And then I'll say something to her and she goes, what you just said there, do you realize how much work involves in that? And I was like, yeah, but it'll be good, won't it? So there's loads of things that we've put a pin in over the last year that at some point we will come back to, but they just, where my ideas go, we're trying to get to talking about, you're not talking about mortgages that much, that mortgages are almost a byproduct of just all the stuff we do online and all the extra things that we do. But it just takes time to get there.
Yeah, I get it. I 100% get it. I mean, I don't talk about recruitment a lot. I talk about mortgage brokers because I recruit for mortgage brokers. So it's always about your customer and it's always about their pain points and trying to do something innovative that someone else isn't doing. But the nuts and bolts of it is you have to be brilliant at what you do. The product has to be brilliant, doesn't it? You know, however we market ourselves, we have to, like, you have to be able to sell a mortgage, like I have to be able to recruit. We still have to be great at what we do. But yeah, it's the little nuances of trying to do the extra bits, you know, trying to add to the marketing, trying to keep it interesting. And like you say, you haven't got a special product. None of us have got a special product that no one else knows about. Like,
No.
we've got to market ourselves well. So it's interesting. In regards to the team, talk to me about the team there, because you got quite a young team, haven't you? You started off. They've got a few people that have come through the ranks with you as well.
Yeah, so we've got some younger ones. We're heavy on the younger side, which is great. The older boys in the office, like John and my dad, I struggle to keep up with the pace of them. But one thing when we were setting up, what I didn't have as an experience coming into the industry was a clear pathway of understanding what was going. Got the exams, had one meeting with an advisor at the DA firm. They said, off you go. And I didn't really understand the role. It took me 2 years probably to find my feet. So one thing I always said was, look, I want our own academy. I want people to believe in the process that we can deliver to get them from, I've left college or uni and I want to be a mortgage advisor, or someone who's like 23, 24, but it's not a case of doing your CMAP and you're giving advice. We put them through sort of 12, 18 months of like every role you can consider. So when they are ready, they just flourish straight away. So I think we've got 3 or 4 going through the advisor academy at the moment. They've stepped up to a paraplanner role. So they've gone from calling new leads into the business, booking appointments. They've gone through the case manager, submitting applications. Now they're working all the technical roles of suitability reports, debt con calculators, that kind of thing for the advisors. And then going into September, naturally, we've already had the chat with them, but naturally now they're going to progress to become advisors. But from my point of view, I didn't have a clue of what I was doing. But now, as a business owner, and I still give some advice myself, I know that when these guys go to be an advisor in September, they're so polished and they have less stress. They're just so much better. So we're actively doing that. We've just offered a position to someone else who's 21 he works in a bank at the moment. And said to him, look, give us 12, 18 months. We have someone who's 20, he's coming for 22 and he's knocking out 30 mortgages a month. And it's like, wow. It's phenomenal. It's honestly,
it's good that you show the path as well, because it's too easy to say we'll take on the youngsters and we're good at academies. Do you know what? There's not many academies, that's not true. There are more academies that don't work than there are that do. What do you think the secret sauce is? Do you think it is at putting people in every job, or tell me about the secrets you think that makes your recruiting youngsters successful? Because lots of people try it and they fail, and it's interesting to see what happens.
I think it's because I didn't have that experience. So when I look to set it up, I want them to have all the experiences that I didn't have. Yeah. Loads of test cases to trip up on, loads of scenarios. Now we've got like an 8, I think it's like Y now, with test cases of different scenarios that we let them work through. I never had any of that. So I think why it works is, I can draw on the experiences of like, what was I really shit at when I first started, and what can I make them not so shit at? So when they come through the academy, it's like, well, they believed in what we've done. And it's not a case of we're going, during our academy, it might work out. We're saying we've done this before, and look, our number one sales advisor is a 22-year-old smashing out 30, 35 mortgages a month, and he's saying that he can do more. So it's not like we're saying, oh, you're going to be writing 10 grand a month. We're like, listen, like, we can show them that this works. He has gone through that. He's gone through the CMAP courses. He's done all the Zoom calls that we enrolled him onto with a tutor and stuff. So it does work.
Where did he come from, out of interest?
Well, He's my cousin.
Is it? Oh no,
Yeah,
yeah, of course we have a day.
yeah. So our Will, when he was 16, we said to him, "Do you want to come and do some scanning, do a bit of admin work?" So he'd shuffle around the office for 6 to 8 hours a week, and then off his own back, he decided to take economics, business studies, something else. And we're like, "All right, okay."
He's
Showing
a
him.
doer anyway. He's a doer.
Yeah. So he did all them, and he passed the flying colours. And then he left college and was like, "Actually, I don't want to go uni." He's like, "Can I come and work for you guys and do me CMAPs?" And then that's when we said to, after like 6 months to a year, we said, "Right, okay, let's enroll you into it if you want to do it." And like, it's the best thing ever. I mean, I think somebody like him is like 1 in 1,000 who I always call him a weirdo because he just gets it. He's like,
yeah, I know.
so
It's such a blessing when you find people who just get it.
yeah,
It's so nice. But I don't think it's 1 in 1,000. I do think it's relative to the fact that obviously you're close to him as well. So I do think you should take some props for the trickle down management in regards to getting good people, because it has happened before, hasn't it? Like, you've got good people, so you know you can do it. But yeah, you're right. Like, it is a blessing when you speak, especially younger people, when they understand, they're commercially aware as well. I think that's a massive thing. They understand why you're doing it. They understand why they're doing every part of the job.
you come across it and you'll speak to younger generations, and there'll just be you'll just overhear a conversation. There'll just be something to say that you go, they've got it. Like they've got it.
You know what? I spoke to a 22-year-old yesterday, and I could not believe she was 22. We were chatting for ages, like I chat with my mates, and she was talking my language. And I'm 41, and I've been in it a long time. And I said, "How old are you?" And she said, "I said, we're not supposed to ask this when I'm interviewing people, so for us." And she said, "I'm 22." And then just, like you just said then, when you go, "Shit, you've got it."
Straight away.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. How many do you think you have to get through? How many think you should speak to when you go, "I'm not sure"? Do you still give people that chance if you're not sure?
Yeah, definitely. We've had one of the lads that worked for us. He worked as a bar manager, like total opposite industry. And we were like, do you know what? We seem a pretty cool kid, and he's literally just like flourished. So it does happen. But you'll speak to a lot of people, and you'll just go, yeah. You just get a gut feeling, don't you? As cliche as it sounds, you get a gut feeling. But there is always that one person that says something, and you go, wow, like, I want you to work here. Like, you've got the skill set, you've got everything that we're looking for in a person. So you like, what can we do to get you to work here, sort of thing.
Yeah. Have you had many that have fallen by the wayside from gut feel, or is it just you've just been relatively?
No. Listen, it's not all cupcakes and roses.
Yeah.
I don't kiss frogs and turn them into princes and princesses.
Every frog I kiss, nail it.
Yeah, but we've had plenty of people where we've interviewed really well. We've got on them. We've thought these are our people, like they are so down to earth.
Yeah.
And then they started work, and we've gone, ooh, that's a totally different person to the one 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't work out, but you just got to keep going and believing in that momentum, and eventually they do start to work out.
Good. I'm not. This is not about promoting us at all, as in the recruitment. But we've got a wicked bit of software now that takes the guesswork out of that. Because you're right. We've always been interviewing people and wondering why these are great and these aren't. And now we've got an incredible. We've added a bit of science to it where we can go, oh, okay, so this is that thing, and now this person's got it. We can see it. But that's for another story. But it is really but it's the same reason though. We could never work out why you can put two people in a room, very similar energy when you meet them, very similar in everything they do, but then all of a sudden one is really successful and one isn't, and we couldn't. And I said we've got to take that guesswork out of recruitment. So yeah, hopefully we have. It's still being developed, but it's really interesting bit of kit because it's right. Having it is not a scientific method. You have to. Yeah, it is very interesting.
And we've interviewed people before that they've interviewed amazingly, they've come in very smart, they've said all the right things, and we've gone, I just don't think they're going to fit the culture. They're just, because then obviously the bigger team you've got, if I drop somebody new in there, what's going to happen to all of them out there? It's going to have a ripple effect. So if I got, for example, we've got a really quiet team, and you take someone who's like mega boisterous, cracking loads of jokes and stuff, like if I put them in there, he's going to eat them alive, or they're all going to be like really annoyed that he's dead loud all the time. Do you know what I mean? So
and it's kind of irrelevant about which one it is. You want to upset the team. You've built a team. It's this one that has to fit. Interestingly enough, ours is the opposite way around because we're really bouncy. We're big energy. So if someone comes in and they're quiet, I feel like it's probably a bit much.
I'm not saying they're annoying as hell. Like they don't. I'm just saying, give an example that the difficulty that business owners have trying to get when you get to a certain size. Like
Yeah.
when we first started out and we took on our first employee, it's very easy because we're managed by me and my dad. It's very simple to get on with them. But
But have you
now
and your
when it's
dad
like,
got the same management style, or do you, because it's a different generation, do you think it's a different way you do things?
yeah, like it's so funny because my dad's very much like when I was growing up, it was like just get on with it, man up, sort of thing.
You're on the phone.
So yeah. Just don't make a look. If you're behind on your work, stay late, get it sorted. But I'm more of like a let's work smarter kind of way.
Yeah, yeah.
Where my dad's like, if you're ever behind target, you'd work 7 days in a week to hit that target.
Mm.
But I'd be like, oh yeah, well we can do that, but I'm just going to tweak a few things and do it within
Yeah, I'm going
5
to
days.
do some analysis and have a look at why.
So we're very similar in our nature, but his is more of like a traditional. I'm working hard as I physically can, which I do.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you can mix the two cultures
Yeah.
of that old work ethic without that, the stick over the carrot thing, especially with this generation, with the new generation. I was speaking to someone recently who's been through this, the second generation of graduates, and they said the difference in the last 10 years even is massive in regards to how you have got to be a bit more nurturing. You've really got to understand their needs, their wants, and their kind of emotional drive. Whereas before, like, I don't know if it's the same as you, when I started, it was get on the phone. You have your seat taken away if you weren't hitting target and that kind of thing. It was completely different. And I thrived in that environment, but I know it's not for everyone.
No. Ours was, why haven't you made 300 calls today? And you're like, what? They're like, well, why's your call time been lower than 4 hours? And you'd be like, I've made 4 sales. Yeah, but your call time is calls. Like, you could do more. You've done your 4. Well done. What do you want? Cupcakes and roses. Go make 5 sales. Like that sort of drive. And it's good.
Sometimes I've made 4. Shut up about 5. But you know what is interesting, because that does put people off a lot more than it used to, because it does, you don't get it. So in regards to that, actually, culture-wise, so you've got a couple of older people in the business. You're already old, but you've got some youngsters as well. How do you keep that kind of, how do you keep a steady culture, if you like, if it come from such kind of diverse ages? Because everyone likes different things, don't they?
Yeah, I just think we've been dead lucky, to be honest, with the people.
I've had this conversation before, by the way. What you do is brilliant, and you always put it down to. I know most good business people put stuff down to luck, but there is a secret source to what you're doing, even if you don't see it, because you haven't got lucky in everything. Like all these people love each other. Do you know what I mean? You've built something because it is a management issue, and I know this for a fact. When I look at businesses, I look at thousands of them. I'm really lucky to be in that situation, and it is a management thing. How you build a culture, how you get people to work together. So it's something you're doing. It's not luck.
Yeah, everyone, we're all just dead nice. What can I say? There's not a real, there's no office prick, which is nice.
Yep. Well, you know what they say? If there's no office prick, it's you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, which means it's probably me. There's no one going around firing, pistols at everyone's, like dropping bombs every 5 minutes. But it's funny because the people who are older in the business are really young at heart. Like you wouldn't, if you asked them their age, you'd be like, oh, you're actually that old. You wouldn't think that they were that old. Like John, I think he turned 55, so we're all taking the piss the other day, going tax-free cash. Congratulations, he's going to be taking 4 weeks off to go to Thailand and stuff.
25% back, yeah.
Yeah, but he loves all that sort of banter. But you wouldn't think he was 55 because he's so young at heart. So I think it's just been a good blend of.
Do you think it keeps them young at heart in the sense that they're working with young people? Like you've got to embrace that as well. Like you could. I'm thinking back to maybe my old man where he would. I don't think he could have worked with younger people because he was just set. He was a little bit older, but it would have been so set in his ways that it would have just pissed him off. So do you think? Obviously, them embracing a younger culture as well as probably maintained that kind of balance.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more with that. The older generations are embracing younger generations and their ways of working and stuff. But I think because from our level, like management style, the older people have gone, oh, actually, this is quite a cool way of working. It's really relaxed in here. So much so.
And they can see it on the bottom line as well, like commercially. Oh, relaxed workers actually make money.
Yeah. And it's so funny because we opened up the shop front and there was a face-to-face appointment and we said to John, who's one of the older ones, can you just nip over and do the face-to-face? And I said to him this morning, how'd you go? And he was like, I hate being on my own now. And he come from being an estate agent tucked up in a room on his own.
Wow, yeah.
I hate that. He said, I much prefer being with everyone in here because everyone laughs at me jokes. so,
That's the
so,
benefit of
they,
being older.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's like, no one was laughing at me dad jokes on my own. So, they want to be around the young, it gives them a new lease of life.
Yeah, nice. That is really nice. Actually, let's talk about that because we're back in the office now. We're going back in the office. We've done the working from home thing. It's really fucking hard to build culture working from home, and but bigger for me, it's harder to train people. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think? I'm not putting words in your mouth saying what do you think we're losing, but talk to me about that. The kind of the working from home culture that we've got, and it's, now I've got like I spoke to a 23-year-old a couple of days ago who said, "I've been working in an office all my life. I need to start working from home." You're 23. It blew my mind, but this is what we're up against. So, how's that benefit you actually having people there and them working with you and collaborating different cultures and or ages?
Yeah, I think it just improves quality. I think, although, I mean, I hated working from home. Genuinely through lockdown, I really struggled with the whole roll out of bed, start working. I was working more than ever, like everybody was who
Mm.
was running a business to try and make things work through those couple of years. But I think it improves quality so much. I mean, we know the para planners who are going through the academy at the moment, they're picking up things from John, who's the oldest advisor, and then we've got new people. When we're recruiting, we're trying to bring on new people with different skill sets. So Lee, for example, was heavily into foreign national
Yeah,
expat buy-to-let investments off plan in Liverpool and Manchester. So he brings a certain skill set that Will, who deals with solely first-time buyers and resi, didn't have before. So he's now picking up stuff from him. You've got John, who's been around the block and had one of those old Royal London sort of rounds where you go and collect the pennies for the
yeah,
insurance
yeah, yeah.
premiums. So he can bring in his old stories of how he used to go and hunt for business. So rather than having like the moment we're putting loads of appointments in the diary, he didn't have any appointments. He had to go and collect his premiums and then try and find ways to generate a mortgage review. So you've got his angle, and then do you know what I mean? You've got Sean, who's from a busy estate agency. You've got AJ, who's been in a busy call centre type environment in
Yeah, yeah.
Manchester.
You're
So
learning from
they're
everyone all
all
the time.
yeah, they're all bringing these different styles, different cultures of selling and giving advice together. That if you're sat there in and around 10 advisors, you're always going to pick up on think, right, I don't like what he's saying there. I like what they're saying there.
I
And
said this to
and they
someone the
can
other day. I said everything
improve.
I say is just plagiarized from 1,000 other businessmen that I've taken a little bit. Like nothing's original, is it? You've just taken it from all of the people you've gone. Yeah, like you just said, then bit there, bit there, bit there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it
And it
works.
just it makes you a more complete advisor, in my opinion. It's and the whole working from home is fine. I've got a couple of team members in another business who do like a hybrid 1-2 days in the office. But it's just that trust. The bigger that you grow, you're going to have to then have somebody full time checking in all the time where everything's up to, where the staff's up to. So I think it brings its own challenges for a business. Some it works, some businesses operate solely from home, and I hats off to them. But I think the industry that we're in,
How do
the
they know
constant
they're not
change.
at their top? How do they know they're not performing at their top? What they know is it works for them for working from home. But these guys that could be working at whatever, 60% productivity, you don't. It's hard to
Yeah,
gauge the return on investment if they've always done it. And do you know what as well? I think the work with working from home, we could work from home because we were taught by someone in an office. So
yeah,
it was always going to work for the first 2 years because we've all done it. We've all been trained by someone. We all understand how to work. But actually, what you're doing with nurturing the next generation of people is fucking nigh on impossible when you're actually like
mm,
they can't teach. I couldn't tell someone how I talk to someone in a training manual. So you couldn't. You couldn't sell a mortgage and then write it in a manual as to how you do it because there's nuances that you do and what your dad does, like you say, or John does, and you can't. You physically cannot put that in one manual for someone to learn on a Zoom to then
no.
to sell it. It's so hard. And also, like
It's
you
like,
said,
it's like Yeah, it's like you just need a framework. So when we onboard people, we have like scripts and playbooks, we call them, of like advice calls, what needs to be in there. And then after we've gone through training, it's like, look, here's let's say 10 things. These are the 10 things that you have to include in your call. We're happy for you to put your style on it as long as you hit these 10 things, because how I've written them will be totally different how you pitch it and you pitch it. And we want you to we want you to be you, not be like become a robot. And I think doing that face to face is so much better than trying to do it over the phone or
yeah.
remotely.
Definitely, and like you say, you can bring your own personality to it. You can be too. I suppose if you're like a robot type, but then you're going to be taken over by a robot as well. If you're a robotic type sale, then you can probably do from home. Like for instance, we're the same framework wise, pre-screens. We've got 400 questions we've got to ask people. So, but no one wants to go through a bloody list of stuff. Like everyone has to have their personality and
Mm.
chat. and that's how you get you've got to have your essential information. But actually, like I can't sell like Steph, we can't sell like Jem, we can't sell like Ellie. You know, we're all different. We don't talk to people in the same way. So to give someone that, here you go, work from home. Here's what you say. Like it's darn impossible to build something decent.
Yeah, I agree.
So in regards to where you're going, talk to me about what the plan is for UK Mortgage Centre. What's the do you believe in the big plan? Do you do like the big strategy, 3, 5, ongoing?
Yeah, so the bag, that big audacious goal.
Yeah.
So I've always said, well, since last year, we're looking at like completions and all this sort of stuff. I was like, do you know what? I reckon I could rest easy in when I'm old if I personally managed to build a business that could do 500 completions in a month. I was like, if we can get to that stage, I'll be like, do you know what? That was a fucking good effort. That was a hard graft, and I feel like that's a sense of
achievement. Do you want to be in
achievement.
it when that happens? Do you still want to be in it?
Yeah, so I think obviously this is a whole different conversation of like.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I've gone off.
I think everyone's got that point, but I genuinely believe with my skill set, with my frame of mind, I think age is on my side, definitely. I think I've got it in me to get it to there. Whether that, obviously, there's been restructures, more office moves, more staff to get. I mean, it'll be a massive operation, but if we can get it to that size or very, very close, then I'd be pretty satisfied. So the growth plans for us really is to start hitting like key increments of like where we're going. Obviously, look, the market is the shittest I've ever seen it. It's just, we're busier than ever, writing not the levels that I would expect.
Yeah, everyone's busy at least. So we always say that, like your pipeline's still there because it's stuck. So everyone's pipeline's good.
But where's the 30 cases that should have completed in March? Oh, well, then they're now completing in September, and we're back to rewrite this one. It's just a bit of a nightmare. So
have you managed your staff's expectations on that? In that this is the hardest it's going to be. Next 6 months is going to be the shittest it's going to be. If you get really good now, you will fly when it's good.
Yeah, well, we've just said like we're just going to dig deeper. We did in lockdown, we redefined what Warrington Mortgage Centre was, and it worked a dream. And now in this market, again with turbulent times, we know that if we continue to build our brand, we stick to our core, we stick to exactly who we are. We need to pivot here and there in different products and stuff, but if we keep our core foundations and our ethos going, then we know when times are good, we should be like, we've dug deep, this is amazing, it was the right decision. So I think if we just stick to it, and then as I said, we've got core increments, so if we hit these targets for a certain period of time, then that gives me the indicator to go, we're gonna move up. I said to the staff as well that
do you track the data that specifically when you go like because we do we're so data driven that we know when we need to take someone else on, when we need to have a look, slow down.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to be this day and age. I think data is the biggest key for the heartbeat for a business. But we always say to our staff, just come back to your point, that look, we know right now we're going to set you a target, and the chances are, due to the economic climate and the way that people are at the moment, you're probably not going to hit that target. However,
never tell them they're not going to hit their target. That gives them an out.
However, what we say to them is, if you get to the end of the month and let's say your target's 15 grand, you don't hit that 15 grand, what we want to be able to do without asking you any questions is pull a few reports and go, right, Sam, you've made 1,000 calls this month. You've only had X number of leads. You've tried so many customers on protection. You've had so many people sign a disclaimer say they don't want protection. You've visited your back, but there's lots you can do as an advisor to go, listen, I've not hit my target, but I've worked my socks off still. I think this day and age with an advisor, and this is where a lot of people do, they go, the going gets tough, and I'm not really to put the graft in to try and see if I can do it. They see it as like
it's the same thing as the bloody summer slowdown. We had our busiest month in August last year, and everyone goes, it is an excuse for people not to pick up the phone. A tough market, but sorry, I interrupted you there. I absolutely agree.
Our sales manager Ben, he says the same things like, "Oh, don't forget in August they're off, these are off, these are off." So, and I was like, "Listen, we'll be fine. Don't worry."
People do go on holiday in August, right? But we are not selling ski chalets. It is fine. It's just because it gets a little bit hotter, there is still business to be made, and we're micro businesses. Do you know what I mean? We're so small that if it's a $10 billion industry and we need to make $1 million, we can do that. It's not the end of the world. But people look at the bigger picture and go, well, if you look at the figures, L and C lose 27% or anything. You go, that's cool. That's not us. They don't have a threat. They're too big to pivot on the slower months. Like you said, they're too big to go through everyone and go, right, let's look at your actions now. What are you doing? Yeah. So we don't have to worry as small businesses about these things. We have to worry about us and the, however many families we've got to feed in our companies.
And I said to Emma, it's like, let's just keep our marketing going. Let's just keep going with our marketing. We do a lot at the moment with first time buyers, and everyone's like some of the estate agents we're working with are like, but we're not selling properties, why are you marketing them? I was like, listen, they are the generational business that will keep our business here for the next 10, 15 years. And a first time buyer doesn't give a shit whether it's a 7% rate or a 1% rate. If they want to buy that house, I'm telling you, they are going to go buy that house.
If they can afford it, they'll have it. It's not about the rate, it's about whether you can afford it.
Yeah, if they can afford it now, when their deals come down in a couple of years, they'll be even better off, and they'll come back to us because we work so hard to get them the right deal at the time.
You're preaching to the choir, because I go to London every week. I'm not based in London, but most of my work's there, so I go every week. And some people are saying, like, you're the only person we really see now because we're not recruiting. And I think, are people that short-sighted that they just knock everything on the head until you can try and make a bit more money again? Surely it's madness. Like, you set yourself up now for later on, don't you? Everything you're doing at the moment, it's not going to be the same return on investment as you had 3 years ago. But God, if you can't see that you're going to be 10 companies in front of where you were last time, your market share is going to be so much bigger, because lots of people just batten down the hatches. And I sat watching telly now because the phone's not ringing. It just it drives me mad. I just got on my soapbox again.
Yeah, or they think of like I need to get a side hustle as well. I was like, no, this is your full hustle.
Do you know what? We spoke to a few brokers who go, I'm self-employed, I'm going quite well. Can you get me a job on the side? And I was like, number one, it's not going well if you need a job on the side. Number two, work harder at the job you're in. I don't want to sell you to any of my clients. Oh yeah, he's got one, but he really wants he wants some of your leads, really. Like, no, fuck off. Just go and work your socks off and do what you're doing. They're like, my mortgage is easy. I've got to spare 20 hours a week. Then you're not making enough money. You're not doing it right. If you've got 20 hours spare a week, get on the phone. Networking.
Go and do 6 mortgages.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then they need a side hustle to cover the $2,000 they're making. So, yeah, it is very true, isn't it? It's so easy to go, it's all right, I'll make a few quid here, a few quid there. I spoke to someone the other day, a similar thing, when he said, I only need to make X amount. And I said, why are we talking about that? Why do you want your bare minimum? Let's go. What do you need? What do you want? You want that 10? You want a 6-figure salary? Let's talk about how you get there. He's been a mortgage advisor for 11 years. He's talking about what his basic needs and wants are. Tell me where you're going. Let's get where you're going. It's crazy, isn't it? But still, again, it's mindset. It's just the mindset of, if you believe you're going to be slow and everything's going to be hard, it is. Yeah.
Get in your own head.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about it before. It's so easy. That's the biggest thing. It's getting out of your head. How do you deal with that? Is everyone pretty good mindset wise where you are, or do you have to like G each other up, or are you all pretty? Is it that trickle down management thing where you go, look, we're going to be busy, we're going to be good, we're going to do this, or is everyone pretty good at it?
Yeah, I think. Look, as being a business owner, there's certain things that you have to keep in your own head, because if you go and share everything, then the staff will just run around like headless chickens. So we, even when, let's say we don't, it's not cupcakes and roses, we don't hit target every month. We're not one of those companies that go around and go like, oh my God, man, we made $1 million this month.
Biggest April ever.
So this year has been tough, but it's about how you manage that and give them the mindset to go, look, we've not hit target, but I'm comfortable we've not hit target because I trust you. I trust you as my team, and I trust that times will come good, so I still believe in you. And then it keeps them sort of relaxed anyway. We have like weekly sales meetings with the advisors on all sort of one-to-one basis, and the advisors can get things their chest off in a safe space of like, this is pissing me off about these leads, this is pissing me off about this, I'm not happy with this way of working. And then as management, I always say, like, I absorb feedback, like I love solving problems. So if you have 2 or 3 advisors like, our suitability report isn't pulling this through the system properly, it's like, right, I'll do it tonight. When everyone's left the office, I'll sit and I'll fix it. Also, just trying to keep them on board and give them, allowing them
to so their feedback's warranted as well, so it's validated, where you can go, you said this, I've done this. So at least it gives them that. Or it keeps everyone happy. If they're not earning what they should be earning, at least they know. And also, everyone knows they're in the same boat now. You shouldn't be looking at social media and seeing people smashing it. No one is. It's a tough gig. You just got to keep on. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, listen, I'm not driving a Ferrari yet, so
yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not going. The industry's
on order,
not.
Isn't it? I heard it was on order. I heard there's two of them.
I've got one of those £99 Virgin Day experiences. I'm going to get the next door,
So
10-year-old one.
I drive a Fiat 500 and I'm a 17 stone man. So, you know, I'm not putting the money in the wheels apart from the car leans over like that.
Yeah, Mr. Incredible.
Yeah. Listen, it's been really good. I've taken way more of your time as I did do last time, funny enough. We went well over, but it's genuinely interesting talking to you. I think, you know, you're doing the right thing there. And I think I said this to you before, like, I genuinely like your marketing, the way you do business and the fact that you've got that training academy and stuff. I think I've blown enough smoke up your ass, but genuinely, I think it's a really good
Thanks,
thing.
mate.
I always finish with the same question for everyone. So if you've got a new broker at the moment, they're starting out and it's a bit tough to get, what one bit of advice would you ask, or one bit of advice would you tell them, if you can only give them one thing?
So it's a new advisor. Say it again, new advisor.
A new advisor, new broker, or someone just starting out in the market. Maybe it's a bit tough at the moment for new brokers. We know that. What's the one thing that you can kind of give them a bit of solace? What one bit of advice could you give to someone at the moment that would help them on their way?
I would say we always live inside our own heads, and our own heads are our biggest limitations. And we as a species are always worried about the what ifs and the worst case scenarios. So I was met with a guy called Drew Povey, who's on Channel 4, and he does all these inspirational talks, and I was speaking to him, and part of his book says about address your biggest fear. So if you're a new broker and you're starting out and your biggest fear is having no leads, no income, all this sort of stuff, what is the worst case scenario that's going to happen and how do you solve it? So, you know, you'd leave and you'd get a job to cover your bills. Okay. Put that in a drawer in the back of your mind so you know the worst thing's ever going to happen to you. You're not going to die if you don't succeed. All you're going to do is it's money and you need to go and get another job. That's your solution. So now your biggest worry of that times are tough is get that out of your head. It's better times will come, but if the worst case scenario happens, you've got a solution for it. Just crack on. And I think I've adopted some of those things where you've got limitations in your mind. You go, look, if everything goes tits up now, like all of this goes tits up, what's going to happen? I'm still alive. The staff are still alive. We'll help them get positions everywhere else, and we'll go and try something else. Yeah, still going to be right. So when you understand that your limitations of your mind, put it in a safe space there. You have the backup plan and just keep focused on what you want to do. You're a mortgage advisor. You are delivering expert advice. You are changing lives. You are helping people secure home ownership, which is an amazing feeling when people get those keys. So believe in yourself, because when that starts to come good, you're gonna flourish.
Amazing. What a great way to end it. That's really good advice, Sam. Appreciate that. So if people want to get hold of you, how do they get hold of you? Obviously, all of Sam's socials will be all across our pages, etc., and below every clip and when we mark it out. But if people want to get hold of you now, Sam, what's the best way to speak to you?
LinkedIn. Anyone can drop me a message on LinkedIn. I don't have one of these bots that do all these automated responses. It is genuinely me. So anyone can drop me a message on LinkedIn. All my contact details are on there, emails and phone numbers. So if there's anyone needs to speak to me, feel free to reach out.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. I appreciate your time today, Sam. I will catch up with you soon.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.